on the spy. Our spirits never die. Together we rise to the endless sky. We'll sing it loud for the team we love. In every match we won't give up. Forever proud, our hearts ignite. Supporting you under the floodlights.
Hello and welcome to Random Fandom, the podcast where we pick random teams each week to follow. We see if we're a blessing or a curse to their results, and then we also try and find a fan of one of them to come and share their story with us. I'm Rob, that's John. We did it, John. We found a fan this week.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
I know.
Unbelievable.
Not going to give it away yet. I'm going to tease it for a little bit longer. So for people who were listening last time, we drew out of the hat Bournemouth, sorry, not the hat, the very expensive supercomputer. Bournemouth, Wigan, and Aldershot. So we'll just quickly recap the results before we reveal which fan we have here with us. So first off was Bournemouth, that looked like they were going to do solid, an absolute solid for me anyway as an Arsenal fan, as they went 1-0 up, and I thought, yes, Random Fandom's blessing is strong, and then City scored 2 late goals. So Taverner put Bournemouth 1 up. Gaya equalised, Gvardiol scored at the death, and City beat Bournemouth, so we lost that game, John. We didn't fare any better with Wigan Athletic. They got beaten at home 2-0 by Leighton Orient, Springer and Akaramerich. Yeah, probably that's how you pronounce it. And the only one that we really got the best result with was Aldershot. They were away at Kidderminster Harriers. I checked online, saw they were 1-0 down. Walker had put Kidderminster 1-0 up. Aldershot then went and got 2 players sent off. So I'm like, oh, God. And then Abrahams in the 87th minute rescues a point, which in my book with 9 men, that's as good as a win. You agreeing there, John? John's not answering.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, 9 men, yeah, that's a moral victory, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. So we have a fan with us from one of those 3 teams. So we are gonna fire up the crowd and find out who we have on the other end of the line here, or for the YouTubes in the window that's about to appear between me and John. So let's go with the crowd. Right, we know you support either Bournemouth, Wigan, or Aldershot. So what's your name and who do you support?
Hi there, I am Bruce Thompson, based in the UK, and I support, if you haven't worked it out already, Aldershot.
Hey!
So, which had a very eventful game. I think the only thing you missed out, Rob, from your quick summary was that Aldershot also missed a penalty.
Oh, I didn't see that. When did they miss the penalty?
It was something like fairly late on. I think it was one whether they only had 10 or 9. I can't remember, but it was definitely second half.
Oh, okay.
And that is now they've only played 3 games, I think, and that's actually the second penalty they've missed this season so far. They also missed one in the 90th minute of the home game. They lost 1-0.
Oh,
but anyway, there you go. But it was certainly an eventful game, and I was tracking it as well. Actually, I saw they'd gone down to 9, and then looked and heard they got a late equaliser.
So I've got to be honest. Out of the 3 teams that we drew out of the hat, Aldershot was the outside bet that I thought of. There was no way we were going to find a fan until I remembered you, Bruce, because Bruce and I used to work together many moons ago, and I was like, I'm sure Bruce is an Aldershot fan, and I sent him a LinkedIn message, which I wasn't even sure he was going to see because he's now retired. I was like, Bruce, if you happen to see this, do I have this right that you're an Aldershot Town fan? Which you are. So tell us, when did you become a fan and why Aldershot?
Yeah, so great memory. So, well, quite a while ago, I was. It's actually been quite an interesting cathartic exercise, actually, sort of going back over dredging up the memories and finding somebody that actually might be interested in them. So, I actually probably first started going to see Aldershot when I was probably about 9 or 10. So we are literally talking kind of 50 plus years ago. So I was actually, at school, we were all football mad. I was football mad along with other sports. I think originally, we did go for the bigger teams. I was actually an Arsenal fan, I think, for a short period of time. I think probably this was like kind of the post-71 double maybe effect. But then definitely, so I am from the southeast of England. Aldershot is, you probably know, but it's a town about 30, 40 miles southwest of London, sort of commuter belt to London. Traditionally, it's the home of the known as the home of the British Army, but it was my local club. So I was sort of brought up in that area. Probably, lived about a sort of 20-minute drive from Aldershot. So they were the closest league club. Certainly, this was back in the kind of the old 4 divisions. So Division 1, 2, 3, and 4. They were in Division 4, I think, initially, and then we started going certainly from 9, maybe certainly from 10. When I was 10, 11, 12. So for 3 seasons, I had a season ticket. Used to go with my dad. So yeah, we used to sort of obviously go to every home game. The Aldershot ground, probably one of the least glamorous sounding, is the recreation ground, literally affectionately known as the Rec.
Does it have a sponsor now, Bruce?
It does now, yeah. So it's now. They actually call it the. It's on the back of this shirt. It's the EBB Stadium. So actually, if you look at when they sort of say where was the game played, it actually says the EBB Stadium at the recreation ground. So we still call it the recreation ground, but EBB is kind of one of the main sponsors.
Cool.
Okay. Well,
have been for a while.
So you said you were going there from like 9, 10, 11, 12, season ticket holder, started off an Arsenal fan, switched to Aldershot. Is that you wanted to buck the trend and support your local team, or was that your dad that kind of had the heavy influence? Like, because that's quite a big move. Like when you're a kid and you're young and you're impressionable and you want to be like all the kids supported. Like when I was growing up, they all supported Liverpool.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that driven by you or driven by outside forces?
It wasn't. I don't think it's really driven by my dad, because actually my dad, in a way, although we went to the football together, he wasn't, in a funny sort of way, he wasn't that into sport in the same way that I was. He was very into his own. He was into sailing and his other activities, but he wasn't necessarily a particular kind of sports fan. It was a very much thing driven at school. I suppose the other difference then probably was, now football is kind of ubiquitous. It's everywhere, isn't it? You can kind of watch anything, anywhere, Then it was actually, unless you actually went to a game, there was very little football available necessarily. Yeah. So there was match of the day, and then there was the big match, I think it was on Sunday with Brian Moore. But apart from that, there was no other kind of channel or vehicle to actually sort of consume football or go and watch it. So I think it was partly driven by the fact that there was kind of league football going on so close. I think maybe I got a memory that kind of one or two of my friends who were also football mad had said, I've gone to Aldershot, we're going to Aldershot. And so we just sort of started getting into the habit, I think, of going to a few games. And then we thought, well, it was so close that we would actually get a season ticket. And then got into the habit and actually kind of really enjoyed going, because there wasn't football everywhere. I think like there is now. So yeah, we used to go to every home game. I think we also used to go to the odd away game, and I got memories of going to places, clubs which have gone on to bigger and better things, but things like away games at Brighton, Bournemouth, Charlton, teams like that were down in the sort of Division 3 and Division 4. So we would have the odd day out and sort of head off to the south coast.
Nice.
As well as taking in all the home games.
So that's the Bruce origin story for Aldershot. One of the other things we like to sort of do, and we always do it in this order so you can finish on a high, is the lowest low. What's the kind of the gut punch moment where you look back on your fandom and go, oh, God, and every time you think about it, it just chills you to the bone?
There's a few, I've watched the results and there's a few, the relegations or getting close to relegations, but probably the kind of the biggest low, although it was a period where kind of after I suppose to put into context, I was very into it. We were going every week. I actually then went away to school, which actually means that actually I couldn't necessarily have a season ticket. And then after, later on work and so on, on the weekends, I used to do my own sport and other things. So although I used to go to the odd game, but probably the low was actually when Aldershot, the original Aldershot, went bust, because I thought that was it. They went into administration. So so although there's been sort of two parts to the Aldershot entity. So there was the original Aldershot, which was very much the one that I first got involved in. But they went into administration in 1992. And actually, by that point, though, through work, I'd actually moved to Cardiff, which is where I live now. And kind of by some, ironic coincidence, the last ever game that the old Aldershot played was against Cardiff City away, was there as the old entity, and I actually did go to that game.
Nice.
Nice, I think, but it was it was a strange sort of rounding off. So that's and at that point we thought that was it in terms of the club.
So what happened then?
So they'd been in trouble for 2 or 3 years up until the administration, and I think they were actually the first club, it's probably happened since, to ever go in administration during a season. So they didn't actually even finish the season. I think it's happened to other clubs since, but they had a very large debt and so on. So I think they went to administration. It was close towards the end, and all the results were scrubbed. But so this was late 1992. However, they did then they were reformed, different set of kind of shareholders and so on. Anyway, the club was reformed as Aldershot Town FC 1992, known as the part of the kind of mascot or emblem is the rising phoenix, which is on the sort of emblem on the back of the shirts now to represent that. And so they were reformed. So they reformed in 1992. By this point, they were obviously kind of had to start again, and they started way down the leagues. But actually were, like some other clubs, were actually relatively successful in a fairly short period of time. Not promotion every season, but actually kind of wound their way back up through the leagues for a while, and then eventually got back kind of into the conference, and they did go back into certainly what was the kind of the bottom Division 4, if it was still Division 4 then. But then since then they've kind of settled back and have been in the National League now for a while, with varying degrees of towards the top or towards the bottom, but hanging on in there.
Yeah, I was looking at this because you went into the Isthmian League format or whatever it was. There's like 15,000 tiers of that, and you kind of got promoted all the way back up into the conference, and then into the Football League. 2007, I think it was.
I think they did. They did have and stayed there for a little bit, I think.
That's right, a couple of years, and then you got relegated down into the conference. But the one that kind of looks like a sliding doors, I was trying to work this out to see if you did go down anyway. You were relegated from the National League in 2019 after finishing 21st. However, Gateshead were administratively relegated. So they basically took your place. They didn't finish bottom, but they went into administration, so they got punted down. So you got a stay of execution. I think, like you say, you've kind of bounced around in there ever since, I think. It looks like it. It looks like you've kind of been in the National League, kind of just bobbing up and down in the middle of the table. I don't think it looks like you fall into the clutches of relegation again. You've just sort of just settled.
Well, we did last season. So,
Okay.
I mean, I think, I don't know, sort of Aldershot seasons tend to quite often pattern. They sort of, they'll start badly and then they'll go on a phenomenal run. And you think, right, here we go. And that happened last season, in that they were in deep trouble. They had a couple of changes of manager. And then they went on a phenomenal run, and then they had a dip. And I think at the end of last season, we finished kind of one above the relegation.
Okay.
In the end, but we were had been safe with maybe about 2 or 3 games to go. It's just that we were anchored there, and others were kind of bobbing past us. But it looked like we knew we weren't going to go down, even though we ended up, I think, at a very not a great position. But we went through a couple of managers last season, and then have started again with another new manager this season.
If you scored your penalties, you'd be third right now.
Well, that's I'm sure that's. I'm sure they're probably aware of that, but are they? I don't know if it's the same guy who's missed both penalties. I think they're 2 to 7. I think they're probably working through who's going to take the next one. Find someone who can actually put the penalties away.
It's okay. We've been wallowing in the lows, administration, relegation, starting all over again. What's the favourite memory of supporting Aldershot you've got, Bruce?
Yeah, so probably a couple really. One from the sort of dim and distant past, and one from the more recent. So the dim and distant one was probably when I first got engaged in the season ticket and so on. We were going regularly. I think it was the season 73-74 when got into the old third division, and had a phenomenally strong season. Finished 8th. And I remember some games. There was one game for run stands out where at home beat Cambridge City 6-0. And one of my favourite players, a guy called Jack Howarth, scored a hat-trick. And it was like kind of, wow, this is kind of this, we're really going to go places now. And it's probably, I think maybe the first season I'd had a season ticket. So was really loving it. So that was back in the kind of more recent, in the way past, in the more recent kind of history. Having had, as you say, been up and down in the conference, had a very sort of historic moment for Aldershot in the end of the 24-25 season, where we got to the final of the FA Trophy at Wembley.
Wow!
And won the FA Trophy at Wembley. So actually went to that game. Had a fantastic day out at Wembley. It was a gorgeous sort of, sunny, late spring, early summer day, sun shining. And that's when kind of a lot of the kind of underground supporters sort of came out the woodwork. So
the
I think
glory supporters.
Well, it is glory, but I think there's seemingly a lot of kind of Aldershot supporters who were there, but sort of dispersed, maybe like myself, around the country. But I think on the day they have those Wembley games, I think they play the FA Trophy and the FA Vase. There's those kind of 2 games up, one after the other. So the way they do the seat allocation is basically kind of each team has a quarter. So it's a slightly strange. So you just have one quarter. So when you turn up, the other game was played earlier. So completely, there's no one because they've all gone. But Aldershot that day, I think they brought about 20,000 fans. So it's just a sea of kind of red and blue in one quarter. And even when we got on the train in Cardiff, at Cardiff Central, as we got on in the carriage, literally sitting opposite us was another, didn't know them, but another group of Cardiff fans. Aldershot fans who lived in Cardiff, who were also heading off to Wembley. And when we got to London, we seemed to kind of just meet lots of other people on the tube with the sort of red and blue scarves.
Yeah, I was looking at that. So yeah, you beat Aldershot beat Spennymoor Town 3-0 in the final. 38,600 for an FA Trophy
That's
game. That
incredible.
is, I mean, I know it probably felt a little empty maybe in Wembley because they can hold 80,000, but that's a phenomenal turnout for
Yeah.
a game. That's got to be the biggest crowd from an Aldershot perspective that you've been in.
I think it probably is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing when we sort of just went in the Aldershot corner. The whole quarter was just completely packed, almost sort of every seat with Aldershot fans in just one quarter of the grounds, with 3/4 of the ground sort of, relatively empty in comparison with the other clubs.
I went to
bizarre.
I went to see Cheltenham Town play Slough Town in the FA Trophy or Vase final. They did the same thing where they do the quarters, and one of my buddies told me, he's like, they'll do the 2 quarters on one side so that they can put the cameras on the other side so that Wembley looks full, and then when that side empties, they move the cameras over to the other side and they can point back at the other set of the crowd that now looks full again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
magic of TV. I'm surprised you didn't mention the 5-time winners of the Hampshire Senior Cup. I mean, that I can see why maybe you picked the FA Trophy over that. But I just went on to the honours section of Aldershot's Wikipedia, and it's the FA Trophy winners in 24-25, Conference League Cup in 2007, and yeah, I'd never heard of this before, but the Hampshire Senior Cup 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2006. You dominate the Hampshire Senior Cup.
Dominate, yes. I'm not sure how many other teams there are. There is Farnborough Town, actually, who I think in one of the conference leagues below. So the local rivals, Farnborough, Woking. I think Woking are actually in Surrey. Woking are in the National League as well, and that's become the big kind of derby game now. Back when I used to go, the big derby used to be against Reading, who were the other at the time, who were the other local the team that were in the league. So that was always a huge rival against Reading, but obviously Reading have kind of moved on up to a degree.
Yeah, I mean the National League is. Just from watching all of the Welcome to Wrexham stuff, like they'll always say that's just one of the hardest leagues to get out of. And I always look at that list and think of teams that you kind of remember being up in the top 4, which it dates yourself because it shows how old all 3 of us are when you start looking down the list and going Southend, Hartlepool, Yeovil, Carlisle. Like these are all teams, Scunthorpe. These are all teams I remember being up in the league. Not kind of. So there's actually quite a bit of quality down there. I know they probably lose a lot of their best players, but such a difficult one to get out of. And it looks like Southend. I think Southend and Sutton are both 3 for 3 at the moment. And if one team starts breaking away, it's just difficult to get out of that division. So
I think it is a difficult league. Obviously, there's Aldershot. I know have still got financial pressures, probably like almost all the clubs down they have, because there isn't a great deal of money. They get crowds for the bigger games, and they get reasonable crowds for the home games. But I think a lot of it there isn't a lot of money around necessarily. I know having won the FA Trophy, the manager actually then at the start of the next season, he actually kind of resigned very soon, which took everyone by shock, having just won the FA Trophy. But part of it was he felt the club could have kind of made more of the win and sort of pushed on. But I think the sort of finances they're struggling, and I know it's sort of they're still struggling, and they've had to cut a few players this year. But then I think they're looking to sort of bring on younger players and kind of build the youth. They've got a very young manager now at Aldershot, so hopefully it's they're going to have a sort of different sort of season as they try and rebuild. And I must admit, the highlights I was watching of that game we were mentioning earlier, their last game, they look quite a fast young side, so but maybe need a bit more discipline and a bit more practice taking penalties.
So yes, on that note, like, time's going to run away with us here. So before we kind of wrap this up with you, then, Bruce, any other kind of little like favorite memories, favorite players, anything else that kind of sits outside what we've talked about so far, and then also what do you actually feel lies ahead for Aldershot this season? Let's just wrap it up on those couple of things.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I've got a lot of affection for that period in the 70s where kind of, I suppose I was very young and impressionable. There's a lot of the players I kind of, are etched in my memory. And actually, I was thinking, is it correct? So having known I was going to talk to you in the last couple of days, I actually went back on and thought, is the memories that I thought about all these players? So there's a goalie, Tony Godfrey, who I used to love. And I thought he was very short, wasn't he? And anyway, I looked on the internet this week and I saw on his Wikipedia page, he was only 5'9", which was kind of very, very short. But the kind of that was what was etched in my memory. But those players, I then, from looking at the stats, a lot of them went on and played 200, 300 games for Aldershot. So there was that core of players that I kind of knew and loved, actually sort of were very loyal to the club. So I was sort of glad to be associated with that period. So I think there was a lot of kind of affection from that. I mean, I know we're probably, we're not going to do a Wrexham. We're not going to, we're not going to probably get the print. So part of it is, I think when you do have a kind of, you support a small local club, you kind of roll with the punches, but you just sort of enjoy it. It's been part of my life. I've kind of grown up with them. They're going to win some, they're going to lose some, but I feel a sort of big affection for them. And you sort of go with the sort of, quick wins, or if seeing them put 2 to 3 results together is kind of all I kind of perhaps ask for. And I still do try and take in the odd game. Obviously, I kind of don't live so locally, but I got a bit more time, so I try and maybe take in 1 or 2 games each year. And there is a sort of fan base, and there still seems to be a good connection between the players and the fans when I do manage to get to a game.
Who's the favourite player at the moment then? Who's the one that gets the Aldershot Town fans off their seats?
Well, to be honest, there's been a bit of an overhaul in the squad, so I probably can't identify who my current favourite is. I need to get to a game.
Will you get to a game this season?
My new favourite. Sorry?
Will you get to a game this season, do you think?
Yeah, I definitely will. The only kind of, again, I live in Cardiff, and the trouble is, I kind of, in terms of kind of where, it's obviously sometimes easier to get to an away game than a home game.
Mm.
The ones that I know they're playing Solihull Moors, and I often come up this way in a couple of weeks. There's Forest Green Rovers, which are kind of down this way. Whether it's good news or bad news, I thought Newport County were going to go down last season, which would have literally been just down the road and given me
that would have been nice.
Game on my doorstep, but they just managed to survive in the end. But I'll definitely try and take in some of the kind of away games a bit closer, or even get down to the Rec.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Me and John love kind of just listening to the stories, especially. I think it is always more interesting to hear the ones like you, Bruce, that it's not about kind of, well, I don't want to call it glory fans, because there's lots of people that support big teams that didn't get into it by being glory fans. But you know what I mean? That whole kind of sentiment of like, if we can string 3 results together, you're happy. I just think there's something just really cool about that. So
yeah.
Well,
we can
dream. You can dream.
Every
that's the best thing about this time of the season as well. Every fan on the planet can dream, because this
year
could be our year.
Well, you've won a trophy more recently than Everton, so.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
There's always that.
On that bombshell, Bruce, what we're going to do now is we're going to pick out the next round of 3 games. So if you happen to know anybody who supports one of these 3 teams that we pull out of the hat, and you want to endorse and say you had such a great time on here, then you can kind of send people our way. So going to fire up the supercomputer and see which 3 it spits out for us this time. So here we go. Ooh, okay, we got a range again. We have a Premier League team, a National League team, and a League One team. So the National League, being as that's in Aldershot's division, Boreham Wood. We have Boreham Wood out of the hat.
That's a
Moving up the
local
divisions
team.
in League One, we have Sheffield Wednesday. It still feels wrong to say that Sheffield Wednesday are in League One. And from the Premier League, they just got beaten yesterday. It's Fulham. So that's
Ooh.
our 3 teams for the week: is Fulham, Bournemouth, and Sheffield Wednesday. We're going to follow their results this week. Let's have a quick look and see what we're looking at through the magic of FOTMob. Okay, so Friday. No, that's not the FA. That's not Premier League for Fulham. Fulham are playing. Are they playing on Sunday again? Sunday away at Sunderland. So we have an away at Sunderland game. Sheffield Wednesday are playing. I'm not even about to find. Sheffield Wednesday are at home to Bromley. And then let's have a look up for Boreham Wood. Boreham Wood. If I could type the right spelling in, it would help me find it much quicker.
They've got
Bournemouth.
Boston United.
Boston United. Boston. Yeah, they're coming over to this side of the pond to go up and play Boston. So, do you know any Boreham Wood fans, Bruce?
I don't, but I did see on the BBC News website today they've got a player who's allegedly worth 1.5 million.
Ooh.
There you go.
I'm
Look
sure
at
that
that.
was Boreham Wood they were talking about.
Wow.
We'll just say it is because it sounds like we've got some interesting insights.
Yes, it
into the
sounds
teams
good,
that are
doesn't it?
coming up. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, 1.5 million superstar. Find out who it is next time. Right. Thank you, Bruce. That's been absolutely brilliant for you coming on and doing this. And yeah, good luck to Aldershot for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to talk to you guys and meet you.
Cheers. And we will
All
be back
right.
next time and hopefully talking to a fan of one of those 3 teams. Yeah, so till next time.